In many parts of Europe, people suffered the absence of spring temperatures this week, with deadly accidents in some countries due to heavy rain. Warmer spring temperatures in the Mediterranean, however, made more migrants trying to cross in order to reach the European Union. And again, many of them lost their lives. Welcome to our weekly State of the Union. Specifically, Germany and France were hit the hardest by the rains, but forecasters think the situation should improve.
At least 9 people have been killed after torrential rain in Germany's Bavaria state. Officials say many millions of euros worth of damage has been caused by extensive flooding. Here in the town of Simbach, 120 kilometres east of Munich, firefighters found the bodies of 3 women in the basement of a flooded house. One resident described how her neighbour had become trapped inside her house when the water jammed the door. She had to sit upstairs with the water rising around her. Disaster relief crews were helping prepare for more possible flooding, as weather forecasters said more storms are expected. What's unusual is the amount of precipitation. It's exceptional for the season. It should last until the weekend and gradually improve during the course of next week, first in Germany and then in the west of Europe. Meanwhile, Paris has never experienced so much rain since records began. Thousands of people have been evacuated across the Paris region. In the centre of the French capital, the River Seine rose above 5 metres. That forced rail operator SNCF to close a metro line that runs along the river, popular with tourists going to the Eiffel Tower and Notre Dame Cathedral. The Louvre Museum will be closed on Friday. That's to allow priceless artworks to be removed if the river keeps rising.
In July, Slovakia is taking over the rotating EU presidency, while in Brussels, many fear the strong anti-immigrant rhetoric of its Prime Minister just at the start of another summer that is likely to be dominated by the migration issue. But those who hoped that Robert Fico might soften his stance in the run-up to the presidency came out disappointed.
Slovakia's PM is back at work after a heart scare and straight back into a top EU role. The country will take over the rotating presidency of the bloc on July the 1st. The Slovak Premier knows what his priorities are. Today we spoke about the important initiative of the Commission on migration and asylum policy, and yes, there are elements where there is a lack of agreement, and it will be difficult to reach an agreement. Robert Fico certainly hasn't mellowed his anti-immigrant stance since returning to work last month. He told a news agency that Islam has no place in his country. It follows earlier remarks on migrants who Fico said were incapable of integrating. Migration will likely feature highly on the EU agenda during Slovakia's presidency, which will see it chair high-level EU meetings.
Better weather conditions and desperate situations on the other side of the Mediterranean continues to push people to attempt a dangerous journey towards Europe, and that's our graphic of the week. According to latest UN figures, only in the few months of this year, already more than 200,000 people tried to cross the Mediterranean. More than 2,500 lost their lives, and at least 880 of them only last week. Back to Brussels. Since the terrorist attacks in France and Belgium, the neighbourhood of Molenbeek is often seen as a breeding ground for terrorism. Initiatives trying to prevent young people from turning to radical Islam, however, are numerous, and sometimes they get a little help from friends from London.
Molenbeek has become an area associated with the terror attacks in Paris and Brussels. But one London football team has been trying to promote tolerance there. 2 sides played in the now infamous neighbourhood earlier this week. And one of the coaches from a team called Project Foot said he was approached to join ISIS. They asked me to go to Syria, they proposed me some money, they proposed me to kill in the name of God. But I know that's not true, so I spoke to the imams in Molenbeek, and it's completely false. Of course it's false. Tough FC hails from West London and works on anti-radicalisation in the British capital.
It's not just a football team, it's more of a family. It's a bit of a support system, and it's given us like a solid base, and they help us with everything from revision to our training to everything.
Team's work has been praised by the Pope and Barack Obama. Syed Kamal, a British Conservative MEP and a practising Muslim, said local communities are taking the lead when it comes to fighting extremists.
And what is strong about these two projects is that the project, the Unity of Faith Foundation, is a local project in West London stopping young children being radicalised. Project Foot here in Molenbeek is a similar project stopping young people being radicalised in the local area. These aren't politicians from the European Parliament or Westminster or the Belgian Federal Parliament. These are communities themselves finding solutions to problems locally.
The result was evenly split. Molenbeek's men won their game, while the ladies from Tough FC took victory.
And it's time to have a look on who had a bad week these last days. It's the Polish government, and specifically Prime Minister Beata Szydło, as well as the leader of the governing Conservatives, Jarosław Kaczyński. They received a so-called negative opinion from the EU Commission over their controversial reform of the Constitutional Court. Theoretically, the procedure could lead to Poland being stripped of its voting rights in the EU, but this is unlikely to happen. On a brighter side, our Up of the Week. It's another couple of politicians, David Cameron and Sadiq Khan. The Conservative Prime Minister and the Labour Mayor of London overcame their differences for at least one day in order to campaign together for the UK to remain in the European Union. Moving to our interview of the week and staying with the Brexit debate. At the European Business Summit, we interviewed two leaders who couldn't be more different. Emma Marcegaglia, President of the European Employees Organisation Business Europe, and Janice Atkinson, former member of the UK Independence Party.
We think that the UK is very important for Europe because they normally worked a lot to have more competitiveness in Europe, more flexible market, more open trade. So it's important that they stay also for Europe.
We've got to make a bigger case about we can be better and brighter outside of the sclerotic European Union. We're not against immigration. I want the brightest Chinese nuclear scientists to come in. I want the investment bankers from America. I want the IT consultants from India. But at the moment, we're discriminating against those that are outside of the EU. We're just taking in millions of people that are coming from poor European countries.
And let's have a look on what's in the European pipeline for next week. On Monday starts the plenary session of the European Parliament going until Thursday. On Tuesday, British Prime Minister David Cameron will debate Brexit with his probably fiercest opponent in the question, the UK Independence Party leader Nigel Farage. And on Friday, it's the kick-off for yet another election campaign in Spain. Thanks for being with us. Have a great week.